our mind just starts to runs with
Mhm.
thoughts. We have that monkey mind. You have obsessive thoughts, repeating thoughts, insecurity coming in, self-doubt stepping in. So it makes it very difficult to stay in alignment with your intuition.
I'll have what she's having.
Welcome to another edition of
She talks confidence.
Podcast.
Welcome back. This is the She Talks Confidence podcast. I am girl dad turned therapist turned women's empowerment and confidence coach, Tony Dufresne. Great to have you. I'm super excited today because I have none other than internationally acclaimed celebrity psychic medium and host of the Colby Rebel Show, none other than Colby Rebel. How are you, Colby?
I am so well, Tony. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
I know from my own experience, not as a psychic medium, but from knowing them and from being involved with them, a lot of times it takes a while for that gift to show itself and to manifest to the point where I do trust this and I do want to share this because it's of huge value to a lot of people. In your origin story, you really didn't see that at the beginning. So I would love for you to take us through your story in discovering that and empowering yourself with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, although my gifts we can track back to the age of 4, and I had them throughout my life, I wouldn't have thought of them as gifts. I wouldn't have really considered that this was what I was going to be doing with my life. I really thought having the insight and having the level of intuition and having that connection to the other side, I really believe that everybody was doing that. So it didn't seem like I was different. It didn't seem like that I was doing something special. Now, again, after I came out of the spiritual closet, of course, my family was like, "Oh yeah, we knew you were different." my
Oh, so they could see it like a long time before
yeah, but
that.
they didn't think, "Oh, my daughter's psychic. Oh, my daughter
Mm,
is talking to spirit." I did, and I was saying it out loud, but nobody was saying, "Oh, my daughter's a medium." So we
mm,
didn't really have that yet. That wasn't really coming out in that way. So really what happened is as I was working in my career as a tax accountant, that inner voice, that inner knowing was becoming stronger and stronger. That kind of nudge saying, "Hey, you're meant to be doing something else. Hey, you're not living your purpose." And then there's a lot of fear around that we have. If you are already successful on one career path, who really wants to change that? But I
mm.
wasn't happy and I didn't feel happy. And I think a lot of times when we're not living our purpose, we can feel a sense of unhappiness. But then what do you do? I was like, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh,
That's the big question.
yeah. And so for me, when I started to think about what I enjoy doing, I started to even ask people, what do you think I'm naturally good at? What do you find that I offer? And people would say, you just seem to know things about me, or you seem to have the answers, or you seem to know things before they happen, or you seem to have really good advice. And so when we started to put that together, I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's psychic. I was like,
Right.
oh. And again, once I mentioned it to family members and my best friend, it was almost like so obvious that it was hard to believe. So after that, I started to really train. I didn't want to just change careers unless I knew that I was meant to do it or I would be good at it or that I was helping other people, being responsible, having the integrity. So I trained a lot, and that was 11, 12 years ago, and
Mm.
I'm still here. So
Wow. So when you started to train, did it just reinforce the fact that you're like, oh, this is completely natural ability. This is what I should be doing. And did that kind of give you the signal that, yeah, I'm doing the right thing?
yeah, absolutely. But when I started to train, the objective was to really have a teacher say, "Oh, you're not meant to do this. Don't quit your day job."
You went
Yeah,
in wanting somebody to reinforce the fact that maybe this isn't the right. That's an interesting approach.
yeah, and literally I studied with some of the world's best, and it was really the opposite. It was so natural and it was so easy that I thought this can't be anything special, but this is where we are. And I love what I do and I love helping people. And I think for anybody younger coming in, this is a lot more awareness around this industry. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot more respectability around the industry as well. I know I teach a lot of people who want to do this, the professionalism behind it and the care that is needed as well. And I think for future generations, it's going to be easy for someone to go, oh, I'm connected to my intuition, or I'm psychic, or I'm talking to the other side. I think for people like me, it wasn't as common. Obviously, we do have some great legends out there, but
Mhm.
nothing as popular, I think, as it is today. So I think for future generations, it may be a little bit easier to talk about and not woo in a closet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm seeing that as well. It's interesting. I'd like to get your opinion on this because I've never really asked this to somebody who actually does this. Do you feel as though intuition or that level of not talent, but gift that you have, is it a gradient scale in terms of how much people are in tune with that? Or is it one of those things where you feel as though you have it or you don't?
Well, intuition is absolutely everybody has it, right? Intuition is your innate knowing.
Mm.
I think the issue that comes in is how tapped into your intuition are you? If you are someone who is so in the frontal lobe and so constantly thinking and so logical and not really trusting your intuition, then you won't be as tapped in, as tuned in. But if you are someone who is sensitive or expands your awareness and really allows yourself to be in that space of your intuition, that is absolutely gonna get stronger, be stronger, and it's really important. Our intuition is so important, not just to our survival, but to our happiness. And people just, they don't realize how important intuition is in your life to keep you on track, to keep you in the right relationships, to keep you in the right profession, to keep you constantly striving for a life that's in alignment with your higher self.
You do coaching, right? As well
Yes.
as just readings, right?
Yes.
Is that like the top thing? Do they realize this disconnect is because of the intuition part? Is it the predominant issue with people that haven't figured stuff out?
I think a lot of it has to do with people being fearful of change, fear of success, fear of failure, fear of judgment is a huge one that people have. Also, not knowing, right? You have a lot of people out there, you have a lot of the coaches who are coaching saying, what's your offering? And they're like, I don't know what my offering is.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, how do you want to show up in the world? How do you want to be of service? What is going to bring you joy? That is going to give you passion and motivation and inspiration for the next 15, 20, 30 years of your life. So I approach it that way. And I really help people dial into their intuition to connect to that source. Think about people, how many times they're in relationships where they're not happy and they just stay in them. I mean, why are you staying in it? Or a
Mhm.
career or a job where you're not fulfilled. It's not what you want. Now, if you are in a career that, it pays the bills and it's easy, that gives you the time and energy to do things you're passionate about and that you want to do, that's something different. But why live an existence where you're tired, you're unmotivated, you're not feeling fulfilled, you're just doing the grind? That is not why we're having this experience.
When you do these readings and you come out and say, "Listen, you're this relationship," or I don't know exactly how deep you go in the
Right.
readings, but if you say, "This is the reason," or "I can sense this very much that this is the incongruence in your mind," some action, like, steps to do out of that? Or is it one of those things where they just have now they have a level of awareness from what you've provided to them, and then they take that and do what they want?
No, I think what's really interesting about my particular sessions is I'm not just sitting there talking for the 50 minutes or flipping over cards for 50 minutes, telling you the energy
Mhm.
in the cards. I'm literally having a conversation with your soul, with your higher self. And it's interesting. People will literally say, "You were reading my thoughts," or "That's exactly what I was thinking," or I'm tapping into such a deep level of how they feel about something that they haven't even shared with anyone. We're building that trust and that validation through that experience. And then I don't make decisions for people, but I definitely lay it out there pretty clearly.
Mhm.
And I also then give them, I love giving like alternative paths. Listen, this relationship doesn't feel as if it's, you know, the soulmate that you're meant to have the rest of your life with. You can stay there if it's comfortable and that's what you want. Or if you decide to take this other road, this is what I see coming in around it as well. So it gives them that information to make the best decision for themselves. And then on top of it, I love giving action steps. Hey, this is what we want you to do to be able to have that relationship or to be able to connect. And there are relationships too that maybe they're having a down point, but I'm not out there saying, "Oh, get out of it, dump it, move on."
Right,
You
yeah,
know,
real
sometimes
black and white. "Oh, you're having a problem? Yeah, that's it. You're done."
yeah,
Right, yeah.
relationships, challenges in our life, sometimes they do take work. And
Mhm.
can we work? And maybe it's a test of how to work better or how to work through your own triggers, right? Is it your own stuff coming up that is forcing you to bail out? And so it's interesting to look at everything and to help people on their paths.
Yeah, here's a problem I see as a coach, and I think you probably see it more, and I would really like to get your input on this. People come to us for answers.
Yes.
Now, that may or may not be the best thing for them. And the fact is that we really don't provide an answer. We provide levels of guidance and maybe perhaps support in
Yes.
terms of following your energy, following your intuition.
Yeah.
Do you see how does that go about with coming with somebody coming into a medium, and because really they're looking for like specific answers? How do you reframe that to empower them in terms of giving them more trust in their intuition or more internal confidence?
A lot of it is I explain to them that I'm here to give them some clarity, some direction, and connection, right? And so that connection is either to themselves or to that loved one on the other side or
Mhm.
both. But I'm here to offer clarity because I can see it very clearly. Okay, this doesn't feel like the career meant for you, or it is, you're struggling with this step or that step or whatever it is. I find with my clients, that they love the conversation that we have. They love talking it through with someone and someone listening. And I tell them, I can't make your decisions for you. This is your experience. You have to do it. And yeah, some people, they don't want to make decisions. It sure is easier for someone to tell you what to do, but you have
Sure.
to have that experience so that you can have that awareness, so that you can have that knowingness of I'm making the next best decision for myself.
It's about empowering, exactly. And
Yes.
I wanted to touch base on the one thing that we talked about pre-show that I think is super, super important, and that's empaths and confidence. And when women come in to you and they sit for a reading and they're like, "Oh, I just don't know," or and they're not trusting their intuition, they're not dialed into it at all, or they're coming in with these preconceived notions of, "I'm not good enough," or it's an imposter syndrome thing. And you're like, Where's that coming from?" type of a thing. Can you give your ideas about where that comes from and how they can tap more into their intuition and their empathy?
Absolutely. So when women come to me and are not trusting their intuition. So when you are feeling stressed and there's a lot going on, it's very difficult to have clarity because our mind just starts to runs with
Mhm.
thoughts. We have that monkey mind. You have obsessive thoughts, repeating thoughts, insecurity coming in, self-doubt stepping in. So it makes it very difficult to stay in alignment with your intuition. My first step is to break through everything they're showing me there and go deep into their higher self and say, okay, this is where the clarity is, this is where the direction is. And there is something within all of us that resonates. When I say something, it resonates with you as it being true, right? And maybe that's
Mhm.
little hairs even sticking up on your arms, or a tingle that you get, or an awareness deep within your soul of, yep, she's got this. She's speaking my language. So we do start with that. A lot of times, women are taught not to trust their intuition, right?
Yeah,
If they're in
exactly.
relationship, think about relationships, especially if they're with gaslighting partners or
Mhm.
narcissistic partners or anyone who isn't being truthful to them. Because as a woman, you may say, "Oh, I feel like you aren't being faithful." And they may say, "It's all in your head, it's your
Oh, yeah.
imagination, it's
Mhm.
not true, you're being emotional, you're overly sensitive, blah, blah, blah." So I think women are constantly taught not to trust their intuition. Think about parents, even if it's for the best interest of the kid, sometimes they tell white lies. But guess
Mhm.
what? That child has their intuition. So by you telling that white lie, you're actually essentially telling your child, don't listen to your intuition.
Mhm.
So it's through these experience that we have that make us say, "Oh, no, I don't know any better." But you do know better and you have to trust it. And at least I'm lucky in a place that I fight fearlessly about my intuition. Like, I
Mhm.
may look crazy. I may look batty and crazy, and I am willing to do it, to trust my emotions.
The
And
point, right?
yes.
The point is to not worry about or deal with anybody else and just sink yourself in there and commit fully and completely to that
Yes.
intuition.
And when women do, in particular, there is a power in it. You
Mhm.
become really unapologetic with who you are, unapologetic about being emotional, being sensitive, being crazy, whatever someone wants to call you. It doesn't matter because there's a sense of power in it and there's a sense of confidence. It will naturally bring about your confidence because then this way your intuition is no longer outside of you. It is the core of you. And so through that, you will know, do I go on this date or do I trust this person? Is this the right job opportunity for me? Is this the next best step for me? And so, having that power, having that intuition, you're really able to make stronger and more powerful choices that are in alignment with your higher self.
It's like taking the wheel of the ship,
Yeah.
of your
Yes.
ship that you're sailing. And the thing that I come across is that after empowering my clients with a level of with their intuition and saying, just trust it and trust your gut and go with it, there's this expectation that it leads to exactly what they think or where they think they're going to go, which is not necessarily the case. And that's not what intuition is. It's just the deep understanding and the acceptance of really who you are in the moment and what your wants and needs are, and going with that and steering into that direction. Now, that could mean you need to make adjustments once you do steer into that direction. Do you see that as well? Do clients come back to you and say, I did and I trusted this, but I'm not in a good place still? Is there any level of accountability that they have? Or do they understand what intuition is going forward?
Yeah, I believe that they start to really work on trusting it because, again, that really comes about in the session. If I'm saying something that you were already feeling, then by the end of that session, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can trust it then. I'm on track. I know it. Doesn't mean you won't have confusion moving forward. It doesn't mean that there won't be more bumps in the road. And there's just times too where there are some things you don't want to face even though you have to,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yep.
Think about it. If you are complacent in a relationship and to start over just seems overwhelming, or you don't know how you would do it, or you don't have the financial resources to do it, then you're not going to want to listen to that intuition, right? You are going to want to
Hmm.
justify it any way that you can to give you more time and It takes a lot of courage because when you listen to your intuition, you will make changes in your life. And you have to be willing to want to change. Think about people who go to the gym. You have to want to put in that hard work to create the physical change in your body. And intuition is the same thing. It's not just poof, you're in it, you're done.
Hmm.
It definitely takes some work and some understanding, and it takes self-growth, self-awareness, because again, we all are going to have those triggers, right? You're Everybody's got the triggers, everybody's got the blocks. They're within all of us. That's programming that we would have experienced somewhere along the line. So you may get triggered over something not even needing to or wanting to,
Hmm.
but it's the ability to learn and grow from that, and then leaning into the intuition to help you out of it so that you can reduce the triggers around that particular subject.
Yeah, awareness and consistency. Yeah, I'm assuming you're validating their intuition when you're sitting there going, "No, you're on. You're this feeling inside. This is legit
Yes.
and I can sense this myself." And that's your superpower, or one of your superpowers as a psychic medium, is to go, "Oh yeah, I totally see that." Right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And there are times too, which is interesting, where I lean in and go, what they're seeing and feeling, is that their intuition or is that their fear? Is that their
Right.
ego? So it's even an ability of going, okay, this is this is it. No, this is actually in your ego because you're afraid that maybe you're not good enough for this. That's why you think X, Y, Z. And they'll be like, that's true. So the one thing that really comes about is that I hear that's true. You're right. I have been feeling that way. That is coming up. That they'll laugh, especially when I call them out on something that is their fear or their ego. They'll laugh because they'll go, "Yeah, that's it. You caught me."
Mhm. Right, because they don't know, but they know. But that's the problem, isn't it? The problem is the fact that you can have fear and you can have ego, impulses come up, and those signals will come up, and then you're like, "Is that really that, or is it really my intuition?" And then how do you go about figuring out if it really truly is intuitive and it's that life force, or if it's something that is an ego program, or like a limiting belief program?
Right, absolutely. So what happens is when it is the ego, the limiting belief, the thought will be more in your head. You will,
Mhm.
again, things will be looping, right? You'll have that loop, that record playing over and over. And then you also have yourself arguing with yourself or convincing yourself or the back and forth with yourself. When it is your intuition, it really is more of a flash. It's a flash of a feeling, a flash of a thought. You could be doing something randomly and you're really not even able to hold on to it. It comes in and comes out. And it's that is the awareness that we want to listen to. That's the awareness that is, oh, that's your intuition coming in for you.
I love that description. That's exactly what it is. I just
Yeah.
love that. It's perfect. Colby, thank you so much. That was such a great, cool conversation and such an interesting background. And the fact, and I did want to bring up the fact that I grew up in the LA area, and you used to wrestle, right? You did the,
Yeah. I think what's really interesting, so I was a professional wrestler,
mhm,
right? So we did that. And then we did the taxes.
mhm.
So it was body, mind, spirit, right? It's
Right.
just
Wow. What a journey, right? You're so right.
And but it is interesting because a lot of times people say mind, body, spirit.
Right.
Spirit's always the end game, right?
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
idea is, though, I needed that physical experience with the physical body, I needed the mental challenge for that experience, then to use those experiences to connect to our spiritual side, our higher self, our all-knowing side. And that's one thing I do. I just want to say to your listeners too is every single one of us is intuitive. The more you allow yourself to practice it, you can practice it, you can sharpen it, you can become more aware. It can become more innate in you. It can become your compass to trust, to make decisions, to feel confident. So, really lean into that. And if you are dealing with someone who is telling you not to trust it or making you self-doubt yourself, really question that relationship rather than question your intuition.
110%. And then try to take a look at other things that have happened in the past and say, oh, hold up a second. And
Mhm.
maybe you see things from a different perspective and say, yeah, this really wasn't super supportive, or I
Yeah.
really was getting gas lit here a little bit.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
Colby, thank you so much. Where can anybody get a hold of you, and what do you have out there? I know you've got events happening, you've got your books and your website. Can you go through that?
Sure. My website is colbyrebel.com, and that's a great place to book a session, to see the upcoming events. You can do an online on demand course. You can buy one of the books. The books are also on Amazon. So they can find me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that fun stuff at Colby Rebel Medium. So nice and easy handle across the
Mhm.
board there.
Love it.
And yeah, it's just a great way. I love to connect to people. So thank you so much for having me and allowing me to
Um,
share a little bit of my story as well.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That was super fun. What a great story. And I will have that information in the show notes as well, as usual. And then you can go to theconfidencedoc.com or tonydufresne.com and get onto my stuff. And I've got my ebook up there, the new ebook, which is Transform Your Life, True Confidence for Women. And it's cheaper than a Venti pumpkin spice latte at a K-pop. So if you want to save yourself some horrible empty calories and empower yourself, there you go. Hope things are good, and we'll talk to you next week.